Trapmore gang, the David case has been incredibly frustrating for everybody who has been demanding justice for 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, who unfortunately lost her life. It has been absolutely infuriating to watch this case progress at a snail's pace. Everybody wants justice for Celeste. Everybody is asking, why the hell is David not in handcuffs? I've said it a million times and I'll say it again. I was always under the understanding that if I was found with a deceased child in the trunk of my car, I would not be going home at the end of the day. I would not be spending the evening in my own bed. So everyone's frustrated why the hell we are not seeing some kind of progress, some kind of arrest. But thankfully, it sounds like the wheels of justice are moving, if slowly, and the grand jury is convening to try and get to the bottom of the case and try and potentially get to the position where we're bringing charges. Now, if you follow the channel closely, you'll know that I did a video today basically recapping that one of David's managers, record executive, appeared before the grand jury, and he was basically grilled on why he didn't call the police. We don't know exactly what it was he didn't call the police about, whether that's the sordid relationship between this adult singer and this underage girl who ended up losing her life and being found in the trunk of his car, still not arrested. It's actually insane. Or whether it's actually, details about him moving the car smelling bad. People are theorizing that this guy, Robert, you're in a lot of trouble. Robert Rogenroth, you're in big trouble. You're in more than a lot of trouble he's in. But people have been wondering, is it because he knew about the underage relationship? Is it because he knew about the car? Was he potentially the last person to move the car? Did the car smell like a corpse? But anyway, he's been getting belt to ass in the grand jury today, and it's been absolutely brilliant to see. But he's not the only one. Now, somebody who's been a very, very controversial figure in this David case is the private investigator who goes by the name Steve Fisher, aka SF Investigates. Now, what's really interesting is I want to say that this grand jury has really taken no prisoners. Ironically, we're seeing managers getting belt. We're seeing Steve Fisher. He's apparently under big time pressure from this grand jury, but we still ain't hearing about David getting no belt to ass. I'm trying to hear about David getting belt to ass. Dead body in your trunk and no charges, not a day spent in jail. Apparently he's not even cooperating with investigators. What is going on here? But I'm here today to tell you that apparently the grand jury is on the case when it comes to Steve Fisher. He put out a few tweets that have been very interesting to follow, and he's just put out a follow-up in the last hour, and I want to just run you through what's going on with him just to show you how serious this grand jury is. And I'd like to think if they're getting this tough with people reporting on the situation, you better hope, as a society that don't want to just live in a society where you can just have relationships with minors and they wind up dead and nothing happens to you. We need to see the people who are suspected of committing these crimes being treated much, much more brutally than the people reporting on it. But anyway, Steve Fisher basically claimed that he'd been summoned to testify before the grand jury in the case. Now, this is a long tweet. It says, "What's done in the dark will come to light. Tomorrow morning, I've been ordered to appear in Los Angeles County Criminal Court for an order to show cause hearing for contempt. I was not served with a summons to appear in court. I was not given a complaint outlining the alleged contempt to respond to. There is no case number, and I do not appear anywhere on the court's public docket. I was handed a handwritten note from a deputy district attorney on Friday and told to appear Tuesday morning. A punishment hearing in criminal court that's not even assigned a case number, seemingly because they don't want this to be public information. Love me or hate me, this should concern you. The fact that this is happening in our criminal court system is terrifying. This is why I'm going public before the hearing tomorrow, which I will not be attending, so that the public and the press can be aware of what's happening. I'm the press, all right? I'm a journalist. Yes, people. Yes, for all the hate. I'm a journalist. I'm actually a leading journalist, okay? I'm a top hip-hop journalist in the UK. Over in the US, I'm making moves. I'm one of the top guys, and I'm one of, if not the top person that's actually covering this David story. TMZ's up there, but really, I feel like I've done my due diligence more than TMZ. I've covered this a lot more deeply. I've uncovered a lot more things than TMZ have put out there. And look, we've looked at some things that have been true, some things that have been false, and I've always kept it real with you guys every step of the way. So as a journalist, okay, I think it's very, very important to keep track of what other journalists, other investigators, other people involved in this case are dealing with. And shout out to Steve Fisher. A lot of people don't like him. But you know what I'm saying? He's an investigator, he's a journalist, he's doing all of that good stuff. Let's see what else he said. This apparently is the handwritten note that he was given. It says, Tuesday, I ain't gonna lie, this seems like some nonsense. If somebody handed this to me, I'd probably just throw it in the trash. But it says Tuesday, December 9th, 2025, 8:30 a.m., Department 123, 13th floor. Does that say Faults? Criminal Justice Center, 210 West Temple Street, LA, California. Judge Olivia Rosales. This does not look official to me. All right. This, I ain't going to lie. Part of me feels like someone's trolling this guy. I'm not going to lie. Part of me feels like maybe David had it. I don't know. Right. And he gave a little bit of this little snippet. Right. This basically says, in the Messino case, the court noted a significant limitation on the effect of an admonition or oath of secrecy for a grand jury witness, citing Goodman versus the United States. The effect of an oath of secrecy is said to be that such witnesses are not prevented thereby, if they so desire, from giving to anyone any information that they may have relevant to the matter in connection with which they were subpoenaed, even though it's the same information they testified to before a grand jury, but that the oath does not preclude them from disclosing what testimony they or others gave, or in other words, from revealing what took place in the grand jury room. Thus, an oath or an admonition of secrecy on the part of a grand jury witness does not inhibit that witness from relating what he or she learns before or after the grand jury appearance to anyone who he or she chooses. My glasses are mad, I feel mad uncomfortable today. Thus, the witness may freely discuss the things he or she learns before or after the grand jury appearance if he or she chooses, so long as he or she does not indicate that it was grand jury testimony or otherwise disclosed the nature or subject of grand jury inquiry. I think what he's doing with this is he's basically saying that he is allowed to talk about the same things that he's presented to the grand jury, but he's not allowed to give the nature. He's not allowed to tell the world what the grand jury asked him. He's not allowed to tell the world, hey, the grand jury are looking into this aspect of the case. This shit crazy. He's not allowed to do that. Okay, apparently. And he's gonna break it down in a follow-up that I'm going to talk about in a minute. Let's just see how people responded to this, because this has been very controversial in the David 2 subreddit, okay? A lot of people are hating on him. Let's just keep it real. This guy is a clown. He portrays himself as super important to the case by finding evidence the police missed, then blabs all over the internet. He's looking for his 15 minutes of fame, and he's totally going to be writing a book about this case or doing interviews when it's all over. I don't even believe this is real, but if it is, it's good. I don't think anyone being silenced is good, but this, I ain't gonna lie, this looks fake. I could jot. Should I just jot? Let me just grab a little scrap of paper and just write, Traplaw Ross, December 10th, 2025. Like, come on, man. But hey, could be true. It says, especially because if he was on some off chance actually given an illegal shady note to go to a weird hearing, it's probably because he was sharing sensitive case information with internet randoms and legitimately jeopardizing the case. Exactly. There's no conspiracy here to protect David, and it's gross that he's implying that there is with this note, and it's disgusting that he's trying to make his profile bigger and profit off this poor girl's death. All he did was search a house and find photos. I hope he turned them over to the police, but now I'm thinking he didn't. He needs to go away and go back to following cheating spouses. That's pretty savage. That's pretty savage. Let's see what else people are saying. I'm going to move on. How odd. Is this something that's common practice for the LAPD? I wonder what they're trying to do. Someone followed up, this does not happen in LA. What he is claiming is super illegal and it makes very little sense. I'm wondering, this is an informal but stern warning because he may very well be on the verge of being charged. If the court decides to, they can stop him from speaking about certain details. And he did already tweet that he was going to have to stop talking about the case. He says, my gut is telling me that this is being presented to us incorrectly, whether it's a misunderstanding on his part or he's leaving out important facts. Regardless, this is not an official notice, lol. It does seem very strange, okay? What concerns me is that Steve felt it appropriate to share sensitive information with a group of people he met on the internet. I hope you get in trouble for that, Steve. It's exactly what you deserve. Now, we can get into it later. I think there is going to be a comment that breaks it down, but basically they're saying that he was kind of interviewing people on Discord. There was rumors that maybe he had asked people to sign NDAs with the information that he was getting from people on the Discord. He could have been getting trolled by people that had no idea what was going on. He could well have been speaking to real people with real information in connection to the case that the police might not have even got to. We don't know, and I'll break it down a little bit more detail in a minute, okay? They're saying we're going to see the Steve Fisher mugshot before a David mugshot. Now, that would be correct. That would be one of the most flagrant and disgusting failures of justice, if I do say so myself. For David, for David not to see any, even a questioning, and Steve Fisher get in trouble for reporting on the situation, that would be crazy. But again, I don't know the full facts, don't know everything. I don't know what was going on in those Discord chats, all right? It says, oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, wow, maybe he'll show the jury all his hard-hitting secondhand Reddit information he's been regurgitating on Twitter. I mean, shit. I mean, you know, there's been some pretty spicy Reddit information, but I've got no doubt that the police know exactly what's going on with this Reddit information. I mean, this just seems like a natural result of a washed-up PI seeking attention on social media by undermining a rather high-profile case. Any legit PI would have had more sense. I feel like it's possible, not the handwritten note from the judge. Looks a little similar to Fisher's own handwriting seen in court documents, but maybe that's a coincidence. Oh, no. No. In my opinion, it's all that info he allegedly leaked to the Discord members with CCTV footage of the last driver, allegedly. I bet it made its way back to David since some of David's parasocials were in that group. People saying, did the video leak? I haven't seen it, but I keep seeing people say that. Can anyone confirm? Can't 100% confirm, but some of his goons were threatening and bullying somebody regarding that Weil situation. They have screenshots of them claiming that SF gave them access to the video. Somewhere in Reddit, he does comment on the allegations. He says he did work them. I see a lot of likes, but no one's confirmed. Have they seen the video? If there was a video, I would have seen it. All right. People saying, except it did leak because there were people that knew about Neo driving the car before anything ever went public. That video has not been seen. If that video was public, I would have seen it and I would have reported on it. It is not public, and I don't get private information from people. That's not a thing. He's a chatty Cathy. All right, so let's see his follow-up, because he did a follow-up today, and today was the day that he was apparently summoned with this handwritten letter that was, they're saying, is suspiciously like his own handwriting. And now he's going to break it down. Okay. Recently, I testified on 2 separate days as a witness before a grand jury. When I was served with the subpoena for the first day of testimony, 2 detectives came to my door at 6 a.m. and instructed me to immediately call the deputy district attorney. She told me that because I was now a grand jury witness, I was no longer allowed to speak about the case, that it would be illegal if I did. This put me in an impossible position. I have a client directly related to this case. If I cannot speak to my client, I'm violating my professional duty. Now, to be fair, I feel like they're probably saying, look, you can't speak publicly about this case, but like, if you can speak to my man whose house that who owned the house that David was living in when the body was found, I don't know. But hey, he's saying that he's been told that he cannot speak to anyone, including his client. He said, I am violating my professional duty. This was the entire point of calling me as a grand jury witness. It was a strategy used to try and silence me. Well, if it's silenced in the public sense of the word, really, they just don't want you making these tweets and undermining. I mean, it sounded like he was basically like undermining TMZ. He was saying that either someone from TMZ or the LAPD or one of the stories or the medical, he was calling cap, basically. He was on Twitter talking about people are lying, which is pretty wild. It was a strategy used to try and silence me. The LA County Medical Examiner has publicly spoken about a similar silencing strategy being attempted against their office. Then I did my research on the law, spoke to lawyers, and found out I was being lied to. He is a bit overdramatic, I'm not going to lie to you. Here's the critical fact. In California, witnesses to a grand jury do not have a general obligation of secrecy. That obligation applies to the jurors and the officers of the court. A witness is only bound by secrecy. Here's the critical fact. In California, witnesses do not have a general obligation of secrecy. That obligation applies to the jurors and officers of the court. The witness is only bound to secrecy regarding anything they learned solely from the grand jury proceeding. It does not apply to anything they already knew about before testifying or anything learned outside of the grand jury. I want to pause here because many people are going to search this online and Google AI is going to give them the wrong answer by claiming that witnesses must remain completely silent. Now, I'm going to do a sidebar here. Look, I love Google. Google is responsible for YouTube. That's given me my dream job and my dream career that I can report on and talk about the things that I am interested in and fascinated by and research them and make money from that. I love Google. I invest in Google, all right? Retirement plan, gonna have some Google involved in it for sure. But this Google AI results thing is actually one of the worst products. If anyone from Google sees this, okay, I love you, Google. The Google AI results is probably the worst thing Google has ever done, ever. And that includes taking their don't be evil out of their mission statement, because it's always wrong. It's nearly always wrong. It's just trying to give you the semblance of a correct answer. It doesn't give you the correct answer. The amount of times that I Google things and then it pops up with the AI result and I know it's wrong and I just have to skim past it. Putting a bunch of nonsense that isn't true and isn't fact-checked at the top of Google, the king of facts, the king of research, the king of finding, is a travesty, in my opinion. It's one of the worst things Google has ever done. It's actually disgraceful. You know what? Just real quick. You know what? I'm getting distracted. I don't want to turn this into a big diatribe, but the Google AI results are absolutely flawed and they can't really be trusted. And this is just something here. Sorry for that side note, but it does actually quite upset me that what Google is kind of, it's a slippery slope because, yeah. Anyway, it says if you click through the actual sources that it cites, you'll see the AI summary is incorrect. California law is silent on imposing total secrecy on witnesses. Okay. Instead, Witnesses are routinely admonished that they may not disclose certain things, but those certain things only include what was learned from the grand jury proceeding itself, not independent knowledge or publicly known facts. In 1983, the California Attorney General issued a written opinion on this exact issue for legal clarification. It is very clear. I've attached a screenshot of that opinion. I also want to be very clear about this. I never disclosed my testimony. Even though the law would have allowed me to discuss my own testimony, I never publicly disclosed I was a witness before the grand jury, not once and not twice. Instead, the deputy district attorney abused the power of the grand jury process in an apparent attempt to silence me. I was told that I broke the law, and I was given a handwritten note telling me to appear in criminal court for a contempt hearing. There is no summons, there is no case number, the matter does not appear on the public docket, there is no documentation outlining what I'm accused of so that I can respond. I was also told that if I left town, I had to be back by Tuesday morning. I wrote a detailed letter to both the judge and the deputy district attorney explaining my position. They have had that letter since Friday afternoon. I received no response, with a hearing just hours away and the threat of a contempt charge hanging over my head. In what appears to be a secret, off-the-books court proceeding, I had no choice but to go public so that the people and the press are aware of what's happening. This is actually crazy. He's wilding. I ain't gonna lie, he's wilding. This is the only way I can protect myself from what I believe is an abuse of power. It's frightening that this is happening at the highest levels of our court system. There is power in transparency. I was left no choice. And I already read you this. This is the handwritten note that just looks... This looks like a piece of toilet paper. I'm not going to lie to you. So I was reading this tweet over a few threads, but for whatever reason, was only seeing sections of the tweet. I'm not sure if it's been updated, so I'm sorry if it's a duplicate, blah, blah, blah. It says, no, not that this has anything to do with the context above, but I've seen and read that SF is also on multiple high-profile cases. Before David incident, I'd never heard of him. And not shaming him because I think he's great, but I've seen him on court TV so many times as well. He came out of nowhere since that situation. This is why people try and silence a detective looking for justice for a murder of a 14-year-old is beyond me. But then this is a long, but let's say this seems like a good comment. Let's get into it. It's because the things he's saying can bias a jury. For example, if he says Neo was the last person driving the Tesla, it makes people assume Neo was an accomplice. We can see that happening now in real time. Everyone thinks Neo is involved. In my personal opinion, I would say that I've begun to feel that he is involved, in my personal opinion and research. So what happens if Neo wasn't actually an accomplice and was just asked by David to move the car? Now you have the public, i.e. your jury pool, convinced Neo had to be involved. This is a big advantage to the defense. Now they can present an alternative theory that Neo acted alone based off the information Steve leaked to the public, and it might actually work. The thing is, not every piece of evidence discovered during an investigation is admissible at trial. That's for a very good reason. If it's not verified or it's highly prejudicial, it can bias the jury against someone unfairly. David's friend group may all be involved in their own crimes completely unrelated to Celeste's abduction and murder. Maybe Neo has a credible SA allegation. Yeah, it's strong evidence that he's a very bad person, but being a bad person isn't evidence of a murder. But it's really hard for juries to separate these concepts, and the defense takes advantage of that by using it to muddy the waters and create doubt. So something that would be inadmissible at trial to protect the integrity of the jury so they can focus on Celeste. So if Steve is leaking information that will not be admissible in trial, he could irreparably damage the case by creating bias. If the bias ends up being against David, that leaves the defense open to appeal any conviction or possibly have the case dismissed altogether. I'm actually sad I read that comment because that sounds like nonsense to me. Let's read this next one. I'll tell you why it's nonsense. He cannot be held in contempt for creating a public bias. Contempt only applies when someone violates a court order, subpoena obligation, or an actual sealing or gag order. None of that exists here. According to Steve, there's no docket entry, no case number, no contempt motion, and no written order restricting what he can talk about. He said that he already testified twice, and California law is very clear. A witness is only bound by secrecy regarding things learned exclusively inside the grand jury room. Anything he knew before is not restricted. Pre-trial publicity may make things inconvenient for the prosecution, but that is not contempt. Here's why that comment was nonsense. Here's why that's nonsense. It's been revealed that David is the most searched person of 2025. We've seen it be Andrew Tate in the past, Donald Trump, all these people. David is the most Googled person of 2025. Ain't no one know who this clown was before this nonsense came about. And what I think is very interesting, you want to talk about Steve Fisher? You want to talk about Steve Fisher prejudicing the jury? This is the most Googled man of 2025. I've made a bunch of videos about this. A bunch of other people have made videos about this. You've got Rotten Mango doing videos about this, getting millions of views. Patrick CC, Loasta, everyone's done a video about this guy. Ain't no way you're not going to prejudice the jury, and the jury might be prejudiced by the fact that, hey, maybe someone was a fan of David. But the whole point is, okay, they're meant to keep going through jurors until they find people that don't have a personal connection to this thing, don't know what's really going, don't know behind the scenes, probably telling them, hey, have you watched 50 Trap Law Ross videos about this? Okay, you are not suitable for the jury, okay? Facts. Facts. All right. Anyway, okay. I want to read this comment, and I'm going to go on to something else. Wow, makes me wonder if there are powerful people involved in Celeste's murder that want this case under hush, with the rental house being rented by an Interscope employee who let David Burke stay there, and if I'm correct, Celeste was around them at the Las Vegas show where there were pictures of her backstage. I wonder if Interscope has a hand in this and wanted to be silently handled, and why is David yet to even be questioned to our knowledge so far? All right. So anyway, okay, a lot of people are asking, why is Steve being treated this way? Why would he be getting summoned? What the hell is this all about? Why do you think Steve Fisher has been summoned to testify? Why do you think Steve was summoned by a grand jury to testify? You know there has to be some kind of evidence for them to even pull somebody in like that. They don't just wake up and decide to subpoena a random person for fun. So what exactly did this man do? What was said? What was seen? What trail did he leave that made them drag him into the room? Because a grand jury doesn't move unless something pushed it, and whatever that something is, it must have been serious enough to get his name on their radar. I personally think it's either the conversations he's having with these weirdos on Discord that are private, or more likely, he found something in the property that the police didn't find. Okay, and it's probably embarrassing for the police. Like, oh shit, this Steve dude found an SD card or a camera with pictures of Celeste in 2025 on it, and we missed those. Perhaps. All right. It says there were alleged screenshots of Discord members bragging they got sensitive info from SF and all that NDA nonsense. Okay. It says, well, there you go. They probably wanted to ascertain what that was about. It says they never bragged. They had a convo with someone. They said they work with SF, and the person took screenshots and sent it all over Reddit. They allegedly did confirm they have the footage that no one else has seen. Seems like bragging to me. They said, and that TMZ is going to find out soon you're a nobody, so is Steve, and you all got the video surveillance too, right? Oh, we do. Maybe turn over the footage. I don't know. Sounds like he's already testified. He's been summoned for a contempt hearing, so I think he's been summoned because the DA is worried he'll compromise the case by discussing stuff they want to keep quiet. Now, Steve has just done a follow-up. Okay, this is the last of it, and I'll wrap this up because I've been talking at length. But Steve has just done a follow-up an hour ago. He said, thank you for all the support. I truly appreciate it. Those asking for an update, I said in my tweet, that is why I am going public before the hearing tomorrow, which I will not be attending. I did not and would not attend a hearing that is not a matter of public record. I'm also currently in Georgia on the search for a missing hiker on the Appalachian Trail. I have no idea what happened at the hearing today. Excuse me, I'm just tired of this nonsense. That is exactly the problem with the off-the-docket proceedings. I have no way of knowing what occurred, and I cannot pull any court records because there is no case number. I mean, not to hate on Steve, but like, yeah. Also, we have no way of knowing if you're just making all of this up to be a little drama queen. Anyway, our court system is not meant to operate in the shadows. It's not supposed to be used as a tool to bully a licensed investigator who has every right to investigate. If anyone believes I do not have that right, then point to a law that says I can't investigate a case simply because law enforcement or the DA might also be involved. Again, thank you for the support. Okay? He broke it down. That was his response. And that's fresh off the presses. There's not really anything else to that. I do feel like that letter on a napkin, summon him, bruh. That could have been one of David. I ain't gonna lie, in my opinion, that could have been one of David's goons fucking with you. All right, they know who you are. They know it's a problem. I am gonna lie. If I'm at a public event, I might be getting a handwritten note from David too, and it could be peak. All right, I'm staying the hell away from David. This guy seems like a psycho, in my opinion. So all I will say is I feel like Steve needs to stay safe. Part of me, I'm honestly 50-50. Part of me feels like he might just be being a drama queen because he's loving the attention, but another part of me thinks maybe. It sounds like he was in the grand jury. It sounds like he probably did have some secret information that the police don't have. They want to get to the bottom of it. They're trying to develop this case. And, you know, we're seeing Josh Marshall not Josh Marshall, my bad. We're seeing our boy Robert in there getting dragged over the coals, getting asked, why didn't you call the police? And in spite of the fact that it seems like the grand jury is only currently, again, there's probably a lot of stuff that we don't know, right? They're saying that Asia might have been in front of the grand jury. Who knows who's been dragged in front of the grand jury? But it does seem a little bit like the only people we're hearing about are like real B characters, like B, C list characters in this story. And I'm not saying characters because I don't treat these as real people. This is a real situation. We all just want justice for Celeste. But still, at this late stage in the game, it's December. What is it? December the 9th? It's damn near. Like, it's probably very close to being exactly 3 months from when this body surfaced. And it's no disrespect, justice for Celeste, rest in peace to Celeste. But for you to have a deceased person in the trunk of your car and still be out here walking around is insane. So this grand jury, they got to do what they got to do. Respect to them. I don't want to get in the way of proceedings. I don't have any inside info. I only have info that's publicly available on Reddit and other people's Twitters and TMZ. And all of that stuff. So don't at me, all right? I don't want to be dragged in front of the grand jury. Don't want no parts of it. Don't give me no handwritten notes on a piece of toilet paper. Don't want to hear it. But, okay, I'm shining today. I got my chains on and everything, man. look, that's it. That's a wrap. All right. I will talk to you guys in the next video. I'm going to have another David and Celeste video, actually, probably in like maybe tomorrow or maybe in 2 days' time. But I'm kind of working on a bit more of a deep dive that kind of recaps some of the stuff that's been covered. And we're just going to dig a little bit deeper, and we're going to try and get to the bottom of one big question that is still hanging over the heads of everybody that's been following this case. But anyway, thank you for watching this. Thank you for trusting me as your, #1 David journalist. #1 hip-hop journalist in the UK, all that good stuff, man. I really appreciate it. I'm so grateful of the position that I'm in, that I get to report on these things. It doesn't bring me any pleasure, the sordid and sad things that I report on, but at the same time, my interest in these stories and my quality research and my due diligence as far as just trying to get all the information to you as quickly as possible on this second channel. This is what this channel's all about: speed. 3-4 videos a day. I'm giving you all the info straight away, and we can all conduct our own analysis together. I'm so grateful to be in this position. Thank you so much for watching this, guys, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.